Good evening and welcome to Grace and Gavel, where truth meets compassion. My name is Buffy. I'm an almost 18-year criminal defense attorney and happy to have you here. Whether this is your first time joining us or if you're a returning viewer, welcome. Happy to have you. Also know that there is a very welcoming community who's willing to engage and talk about both of the podcasts, whether it's Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress, or it's Grace and Gavel, where truth meets compassion. A lot of you are very detail oriented, and I love that, as well as having questions and things like that. Stay tuned because I'm trying to figure out a time when I can actually do a live on YouTube Live and potentially be able to engage with you all and talk about maybe some questions that you all have. And other things and get to know some of you. So I definitely appreciate that. So today we're talking about there's something no one tells the family scapegoat. You don't actually have to prove your innocence to be free. And the longer you stay in the courtroom trying to win, the longer you delay your own peace. Because no matter how much evidence you present regarding your innocence, your intentions, who you are, what you're about, the type of person that you are, it will likely never be enough. You essentially could climb Mount Everest easier than you could persuade people who see you as the scapegoat to give you a chance or even listen to your viewpoint. So let's talk about the invisible burden of proof. Oftentimes, when you're the scapegoat, you default to defense mode because you're used to being underestimated. You're used to being misjudged. You're used to being on the hook for things that you had nothing to do with, right? And ultimately, that is not a failure on your part. It's what you're used to, right? Because there's part of you who realizes deep down that no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it's probably not going to be enough. Now, most people who would listen to what you had to say would understand where you're coming from, or at least try to meet you halfway. But this is a dysfunctional family system that has pitted you against your family members for whatever reason. Not blaming you, not judging you, just saying that oftentimes the scapegoat is the one that takes the brunt of a lot of things. Rather unfairly, truly, but that's what happens, right? Why isn't this person doing this? Why isn't this person doing that? Why is this happening, right? Why isn't this person doing more? Why aren't they proving that they had nothing to do with XYZ, right? Because ultimately, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone unless you want to. And ultimately, maybe some of you have decided that it would be futile to literally go through this process when you've already been judged to be guilty, even though you are not guilty, right? Even though you're being misjudged and treated almost like a second-class citizen at times. And the other thing is, too, the fact that you're in defense mode also causes over-explaining to become survival, right? Because you want to show how deeply you care about the scenario and how much you've tried to do to avoid this situation. And so you want to say, hey, I am part of this family. I enjoy this family. I want to be there. I want to be able to work through this. But ultimately, being misunderstood trains you to argue your own existence, right? trains you to start second guessing if your reality of who you are is actually true, or if you are as terrible as some people seem to think that you might be. The other thing is, likely you've experienced a lot of manipulative tactics, gaslighting, triangulation, which is where someone is trying to get you to take the fall for, once again, some other thing that somebody else has likely done. When the burden of proof is always on you, you're never able to rest. And ultimately, that's exhausting. That can trigger your nervous system and cause you to continue to be in fight or flight mode, which is really sad when you think about the dysfunction and dealing with the family always wanting to blame someone, and that someone being you. It would have to be exhausting, right? Because you're always on guard. Where is the next shoe going to fall? Where's the next shoe going to drop, right? What did I do this time? Like, how am I going to be able to continue going through this day after day after day after day after day? Let's talk about the jury was never neutral. A lot of people engage in what is called confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is when someone can only see what confirms their viewpoint. They're not neutral. They already have a stake in the game. They already have skin in the game, if you want to say that. And their idea is that they are 100% correct. And if you're the scapegoat, you're probably 100% wrong. Now, is that actually true? Is there somebody who's 100% right and somebody else who's 100% wrong? No, right? Because that makes no sense. No one is automatically 100% right, and nobody is automatically 100% wrong. That doesn't make any sense. Now, things are generally not black and white. Things are varying degrees based on the situation. You know, am I saying that you're always right? No. Am I saying that they're always wrong? No. But ultimately, you're made to feel like you're always wrong, right? So you may as well be wrong, right? Because that's what people are saying about you. That's what they're trying to lead you to believe, to take the blame for things like you've always done, to be the responsible one like you've always done, to be the person who's causing all of these issues like you've always done. And then also, they're wanting to cement the narrative, to show you how you fit in the family scheme of things. And they want you to accept that role willingly. So it's almost like, well, they accepted that role. I had nothing to do with that role. They took it on. They accepted it. There it is. And again, it ultimately boils down to family systems are protecting the equilibrium. Nobody wants to shake things up. Nobody is going to bail off that ship because they're comfortable with how things are working. They're comfortable avoiding accountability because accountability can be difficult to take, can be difficult to stomach, can be difficult to accept. Most of the time, the people that hurt you, they are not willing to accept responsibility. Ultimately, they will project their own behavior onto you. Well, clearly, you weren't really a member of our family because you did XYZ. Clearly, you were the one that was at fault for what occurred, and you're not taking accountability for your actions. How can we even begin to try to figure out who you are, what you need, how we can fix this, right? So ultimately, it's a scenario again where they're passing the buck, right? And the buck comes back to you. You can present flawless evidence and still lose a biased trial. Happens all the time, especially in the real system too, right? The exit strategy. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but an internal verdict, right, is what you would have. An internal verdict, emotional release, and strategic disengagement. Because sometimes not engaging can literally calm down the fire, right? Because the more you engage, the more you're adding fuel to the fire, and their fire burns hot, right? I'm sure you've experienced that if you are the scapegoat. You know that it's almost like no matter what you do, nothing you do is going to be correct. And no one's going to be happy with you because you're trying to buck the system. You're not accepting your part in this dysfunction. Most likely because you've had enough. You're sick of being the person who is taking the brunt of this. No one's standing up for you or coming to your defense. It's almost a foregone conclusion, which is not fair to you. And I know that most of you know that, and you feel that, and you felt it for a long time. But a lot of people were afraid to acknowledge that to you or admit that to you. Because in dysfunctional family systems, you know that someone is going to potentially be on the chopping block or be a target for whatever reason. And the other people know that too, and they don't want to be the next target, especially seeing what the scapegoat has actually gone through, seeing what you've gone through. It's not for the faint at heart. And you are one strong individual to have put up with that. It's unfortunate because you didn't deserve that. You are worthy, you are valued, you have people that love you and want the best for you. You ultimately are able to decide how you want to handle this situation, right? Freedom isn't convincing the jury. Freedom is declining the courtroom. Because in the courtroom, you will not get a fair shake. And you know that. They've already made up their mind. Maybe they've paid the jurors. Who knows, right? So in closing, you don't have to win the trial to be free. You just have to stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. Thank you for tuning in to Grace and Gavel, where truth meets compassion. And I hope that you'll come back and see us again soon. And I hope that this video helped you understand a little bit more and gave you some encouragement, because you can do this. You got this. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day. And I hope you'll come back and see us again. Bye-bye.